Charlie, what would you like to say?
Thank you, James. Great to talk to you. In answer to your question about what this looks like in Scandinavia and the Baltics and what they're doing differently,
yes.
What really makes them stand out is that they have what we call a very comprehensive whole-of-society approach to their security, because they have a very recent history, particularly in the case of the Baltics, of occupation for decades. And this goes down even into the school system. In Estonian schools, they learn the foundations of military strategy, and they learn about guerrilla warfare enacted by partisans, the Forest Brothers, during Soviet occupation. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were pausing for effect then, because I was sort of gulping. That's an extraordinary thing to be taught. First of all, how do you know so much about this, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm a journalist with the Moscow Times, which is an exiled news organization. We were founded in the 1990s to provide high-quality English language news for all the expats who came to Russia as a newly emerging market. We had to leave Russia in 2022 because, well, we wanted to call the war a war. And you can't call it a war in Russia. You have to call it a special military operation.
Good Lord.
So both our English and Russian language services, along with several other independent Russian outlets, have been operating in exile in Amsterdam since, and we've been declared undesirable by the Russian government.
Congratulations.
Which means, it's a strange situation because, on the one hand, it is something of a badge of honour. It does mean
but it limits what you
properly.
can do. It limits your ability to do your job as well.
Exactly. It makes it illegal for sources in Russia to talk to us.
Wow.
Thankfully, they still do. But, I mean, in previous journalism jobs I've had, we were very rigorous about how you have to be able to put people's names on quotes, for example. We can't do that anymore because we're putting them at risk. And for Brits like me, it's just it's an annoyance. But for my Russian colleagues, it's very sad.
Yes.
And they're worried about their families.
Well, I'll pick your brains if I may while I have you, Charlie. Thank you for ringing in today. I mean, let's begin with that question. What is the... can you speak about Russian public opinion? Is it a vaguely homogenous thing? And if so, what is it?
So it's very hard to tell, firstly, because people are very reluctant to respond to surveys, even the relatively high-quality one. Generally, it is a minority of people who are full-on cheerleaders for the war, we might say. The patriots is the phrase that's sometimes used. But equally, the number of people who are actively opposed to it is quite a small minority.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, it's a sort of resignation. And very few people want the war to actively continue. But ending a war and losing a war are very different things.
And, I mean, given what you just told us about Estonia and other countries and the attitude that they have, the conversation about the war in general and about the summit in Alaska today is going to be incredibly different in the countries that I've listed than it is, for example, in the United Kingdom. Are there any sort of defining themes of that conversation? Do Estonians and Lithuanians and other and Latvians and the rest of them, do they feel that Putin has designs upon their territory, on their countries?
I haven't been monitoring over the past few days, but more generally...
I mean more generally. I mean, because historically, you can talk about Russian ambition, but specific to Putin, the idea that he comes away with something he wanted from Donald Trump, the fear that he will now want more, is likely to be more keenly felt in the countries that we're talking about than it is in the UK, no?
Precisely, and it's a very real risk. These are very small countries. They don't have much strategic depth. In theory, Russia could get to Tallinn within a day or so.
Yes.
However, they know this, and that is why we have the Joint Expeditionary Force based there, which is a military body outside of NATO who can respond quickly in the case of invasion, and NATO itself is beefing up its presence in the area. But there's a cultural level to it too. If you go to any of these cities, you will see anti-Russian graffiti absolutely everywhere. I remember not too long ago, I was in Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, and I was visiting their memorial park. And on a memorial to the people who had died under communist rule, there was graffiti saying, "Russian occupiers make the best soap and fertilizer."
Blimey. And that is, I mean, partly because the memory of occupation is still generationally fresh. And it, as you say, it's part of the cultural furniture. So these conversations that we have in London, and I'm delighted you were listening today, that are a little bit theoretical, and sometimes we guard ourselves against fears of hyperbole. In these 10 countries, and UK is part of the Joint Expeditionary Force as well. I wonder how many people listening to this programme at the moment know that. But Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, and then the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden and the UK. This exists, and the cultural legacy is that Russian invasion is a constant threat, an existential threat.
Precisely, and the politicians know that. Interestingly, there was a great article in the Washington Post recently about the Finnish president Alexander Stubb, who has a very good relationship with Donald Trump, in part based on playing golf, which makes him almost a bit of a Trump whisperer. People I've spoken to in Washington, even among all the uncertainty about the strength of Trump's commitment to Europe, the extent to which that is rhetoric or a general threat, say that actually the Baltic states have a lot of resonance within American politics and a lot of sympathy, because a lot of particularly Republicans not only respect them for shaking off communist rule and becoming pretty successful countries, actually, but also for the fact a lot of them took a hard neoliberal turn in the 1990s. So they feel a degree of kinship there. And also, these are the countries that have taken their defence and their defence spending seriously. So they aren't arguably freeloaders like so many countries in southern and western Europe have been.
Thank you. I knew that this was almost, if I had assembled in a laboratory, the kind of call I wanted when I set up this second hour of the programme. It would have been the call that you've just made. Because
thank you. I can recommend a book for your readers as well.
Please do.
So there was a great book released recently called Baltic, The Future of Europe by Oliver Moody, where he goes through Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania and Poland, and he talks about this culture I'm talking about. In Lithuania, you can sign up to courses which will teach you what to do in the event of a Russian invasion. And a lot of those lessons are brought straight from Ukraine. There are actually booklets online in English that you can find about this. And it includes what I find to be really interesting details, like if it is safe, film what is going on, looking at identifying markers, and then try and send those to particularly the BBC and CNN, because so much of the information that we got in the early days of the invasion of Ukraine were from just civilians filming what was going on in the streets.
Absolutely.
But of course, do that safely, because the Russians will be looking for anybody who is trying to collect any of that kind of intelligence.
Can I share your byline, Charlie? Do you mind? Because I want to encourage people to follow your work and the work of your colleagues at the Moscow Times as well.
Please do.
Good. Charlie Hancock, thank you so much for that. And well, keep on doing what you're doing.